Greetings. What is up, my friends? Hope you're well. Yeah, let's go. Let's have a little chat, shall we? So this morning I get up and I'm roaming around. Left the house at like 6:30. Went to the grocery store. Went over to this coffee place, got a couple pounds of coffee, and then rolled home. So I don't know. I was gone for probably 40 minutes this morning. So when I left my driveway, I picked up the phone. I was on the phone from here to the grocery store. From the grocery store to the coffee shop, I was on another call. From the coffee shop home, I was on another call. Okay. I'm just going to set this thing up because, you know, the first hour of my day of just getting some stuff done, highly productive. We hear all the time from people, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. Those are literally the two biggest objections. Those are objections one and two when it comes to somebody looking at a network marketing opportunity, a network marketing business. I just don't have the time. I don't have the money. Now there's other ones, but that's number one and number two. And then worse yet is people that are in your business that come to you and they say, I don't have the time. So is it true that they don't have the time, or have they just not decided to make it a priority? Could be one or the other, but that's like, this isn't considering the fact that we get, I don't have the time and I don't have the money so frequently. Doesn't it make sense then to figure out, okay, how do we get through that objection, that roadblock, if it comes up all the time? Like, I don't know. I mean, if you're a network marketer, you can't tell me you've never gotten, I don't have the time or I don't have the money. And so I thought about that this morning, running these errands and then coming back. I'm like, I gotta do a live on this. So, it's and I'll give you a couple of very, very specific examples here in a second, but you got to understand something. Like the individual that's saying, I don't have the time, they probably haven't been taught how to look at their time differently. Okay. And I do literally mean taught to look at your time differently, because think about it. Like, what do you think most people would be doing when I was doing what I did this morning? They're getting up, they're driving, they're in, like, they're just going down the road, they're going to their spot. Like, I'm like, okay, cool. This is downtime for me. This is like this 8-minute drive over here. That's a call. This 6-minute drive over here. That's another call. This 12-minute drive back to the house. That's another call. I was literally on calls the entire time. And so the title of this, like, can you build a business 60 minutes a day or less? I'll prove it to you right now. I'll prove it to you. I'll give you two very specific examples. And I want you to hear this, because you're going to deal with this and you've got to be able to address it. And real quick, before I get into it, I want to let you guys know about a new video series. It is an amazing free video series, toddfalcone.com/go time. Except perfect forward slash, considering we're talking about time. toddfalcone.com/GOTIME. Okay. Go time. So that's the website. No strings, totally free, and absolutely content driven. Okay. Promise you to help you make more money in your network marketing business if you go grab that new free training series. So, all right. So check this out. So I'll give you an old story. Okay. And I can give you many of these, but this one is like, so years ago, I worked with this guy, Mark Weezer. Okay. Mark was in my downline. He was second level to me in an organization. I always liked Mark. He and I still get along to this day. He's a cool dude. He came to me one day and he said, hey man, I'm quitting the business. And it's not often that you get somebody who calls you to tell you they're quitting the business. They just kind of, most people are scared to tell you. So they just kind of cancel their auto ship and they, vanish off into the sunset, and then they become not reachable. I mean, that's very, very common. That's way more common than somebody saying, hey man, just want to let you know that I'm not going to do the business anymore, which is kind of cool when people actually do that. So Mark calls me, and I always thought Mark could do this. Like, he was an articulate, solid communicator, definitely had work ethic. And I'm like, what's up, bro? He said, I just don't have the time. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, I worked 70 hours a week. I'm super involved in my church. I have a family, and I've got a 2-hour commute. And I immediately clued in on this 2-hour commute. I'm like, bro, you're in your car like an hour each way? He goes, no. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, no, I'm in my car for 2 hours. What? He's in his car from Riverside to Los Angeles, 2 hours. And then Los Angeles to Riverside, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. Is that insane or what? And this is like a while ago. This isn't like yesterday. And I said to him, I said, Mark, I go, well, what are you doing in your car? And he said, well, you're not even gonna like that answer. I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, I'm not even using it as a roving university. I'm listening to talk radio. I'm like, okay. I'm not gonna get mad at the guy. At least he was being honest with me. I said, dude, check this out. Like, this is where I went into teaching him how to use his time and view his time differently. And that's something that we as network marketers, we got to do a lot of things. We got to see things in people that they don't see in themselves. And we have to see things for people that they don't see for themselves. There's something special about being an entrepreneur. It's different. And you have to look at things differently. You have to be, you have to be resourceful. You don't have to have a lot of resources, but you need to be resourceful. And so I learned to do this a long time ago. And so here I am with Mark. I'm like, dude, check this out. Do you want to make money here? He goes, yeah, I do. I said, what if I come up with a plan? He's like, yeah, I'm game. What do you got? I said, well, check this out. Print out your leads for the day, the night before you go to work, in big font, as big font as you need so you're not crashing. Tape it to your dashboard in your car, in front of the radio. Call your cell phone company, max out your minutes. We don't have to do that anymore. But back then it was like a per minute charge, right? Some of you guys had cell phones long enough to remember we paid per minute for cell phone usage. Now it's all unlimited, right? So I love it when somebody's super coachable. So Mark did it. And he's like, they called me like 7:15 the next morning, ring. My phone rings, and it's him with a 3-way call. And then 15 minutes later is another 3-way call, and another one, and another one. And then that afternoon, 3-way call. Because I told him, I go, you do it, I'll be there for you. And this guy hammered me with more 3-way calls over the next 12 months than all of my personally sponsored people combined. And the dude goes from like making zero and quitting to within, and it was under a year. In 10 months, we got him to, he had his first 5-figure month. So he hit 10 G's. So to take a guy from quitting to making over 10 grand a month. And then the crazy thing, I'm a pretty damn good recruiter. That guy was like #1 recruiter next year, #1 recruiter the next year. I mean, somebody do the math on this, but I remember the next year he personally sponsored over 250 people. I got to get my calculator out on that one. Hang on. What is that? 250. What is it? 250 divided by 12. I mean, that's like 21 people a month that the guy was recruiting. I couldn't hold a candle to him. And my God, it's a little side note. He asked me one day, he goes, how many hours a day do you work? I was like, dude, I work 27 hours a day. And of course there's 24 hours in a day. I was being sarcastic, but he got the point. Like, I hustle. And I honestly, when this guy got to the point where he was making all this dough, he ended up finally, if I remember he called me and he's like, hey, it was at like 17,000 a month. He had pretty consistently 15 to 17,000 a month for a period of a few months. And he's like, he goes, do you think I could quit my job? I'm like, hey bro, that's gotta be your own decision. But like, looks to me like you've built a stable, solid check that's moving in the right direction, but you need to make that decision. I don't think he did it right away. I don't think he did it until he was over 20, but he went on to make 40, 50,000 a month in the company that he was involved in. So did really well. Network marketing completely changed his life. I mean, so there's one example. Here's a person that's quitting the business. I have no time. It's how you perceive or how you look at the time that makes the biggest difference. I interviewed Rachel Garcia, big networker, very successful network marketer, a few weeks ago on my podcast. If you didn't catch that one, if you've noticed, by the way, I've been interviewing a ton of really cool people. I've always told her story, but she got a chance to tell her story, because like when she launched her business, she was working. And now this is cool because this is like total polar opposite. She had a 5-minute commute. She didn't have a 2-hour commute. And she's like, the kind of business that she was in a medical business and basically was on lockdown. She didn't have any free time during the day to like sneak out and make calls or whatever. So she would make a call every single day on the way into work. Hey, Javier and I are at lunch at this business. We'd love to show you what we're up to. I'm going to send you this video. I'll call you this afternoon. I got to go. I'm at the office. I mean, it was kind of like that. And she would call that person on the way in, and then she would call that person on the way home. And she made 6 figures her first 12 months. And that's not even an hour a day. So this whole BS excuse, like you need a whole bunch of time, you need many, many hours. I mean, the more hours that you put in, if they're the right kinds of hours, focus on the right kinds of activity, then that's beautiful. You'll do well. But to say that somebody can't build a business in extremely part-time hours, I mean, look, I build a business that I know, I mean, it's hard for me to say I really built it, but I built it. I put a tiny amount of time in, and that business paid me. I mean, after I left, it paid me over 1.5 million. After I left, after I left, after I stopped building that business. In fact, that business still pays me to this day. And it's been 17, 18, it's been 18 years. Beautiful thing about network marketing, when you get it going right, you find something that can continue to pay you from the work that you did one time. So what I want you guys to think about is, okay, so when you're dealing with your prospects, if your prospect says, I don't have the time, if something is that important to somebody, they will make the time. Just that simple. So it hasn't become that important to them yet because you haven't done a good enough job of convincing them through the conversations that you're having with them that they can see themselves profiting in that business. Because if they saw the business, like, oh my gosh, I could totally see myself making money here. I could totally see that me investing time in this is worth it. Then they would take the action. So there's two things we have to deal with here. There's one, your prospects, and two, the people that are on your team. Because you can't tell me, there's nobody here that's an experienced network marketer that's been in for more than a year that hasn't had somebody say, hey man, I don't have the time as a prospect. And then you're dealing with it where you got reps on your team that aren't putting any effort in because they don't think that they have any time. I've been teaching this, like when I produced Cracking the Code of Success in Network Marketing a few years ago. One of the sections talks about this whole concept of making use of the crooks and the crannies of your day. These small times, these breaks, these in-between times. Like a 5-minute break could be a call or a reach out, a Facebook message. If you're commuting, you can't be Facebook messaging clearly unless you're on a train or something. But look, this is an important subject to discuss. I'm curious. Do you deal with this? Do you deal with people that say, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, either as prospects or in your business? I mean, today's subject matter is I don't have the time. Everybody's got the time. And it doesn't even have to take that much time. Yes, the more time you put in, sure, you can make more money as long as the efforts that you're putting forth are the right kinds of efforts. Because you got people 50 hours a weekend and they ain't getting anything done because they're not doing the right stuff. And the right stuff is you got to be aware is exposure, invites, putting people in front of whatever it is that you're involved in. So again, look, guys, go download. It's not even download. Just go grab the free training video series, toddfalcone.com/go time, GOTIME. I deliver them to you daily. So you're not in overwhelm. Each one is a salient chunk of usable content that will help you make money in your direct selling, your network marketing business. Again, TODDFALCONE.com/go time. And it's time for me to go. So appreciate you guys. Have a beautiful day. See you next time.